So thank you everybody on this beautiful day for being with us and joining us for the first annual New Jersey Youth Transition Conference. My name is Chad with Monmouth Cares, and I'll be your host for this session, which is titled Person-Centered Approaches in Schools in Transition. We have a few panelists for today. They're from the JFK and Rutgers Boggs Center. We have Jill Summers Phillips, LaPrice Wetherington, Michael Steinbruck, and Rumi Frempong. And then I'll let the DJ's mother introduce herself too when it comes time. Real quick, a couple of housekeeping items to get started. In this format, all participants are muted by default. If you'd like to communicate with myself or the panelists, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. A recording of this presentation will be available for the next few days on the New Jersey Youth Transition website at www.njyouth-transition.life. This session is also being closed captioned. In order to activate the closed captioning feature, please click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen and click Show Subtitle. If you need a technology support at any point during the conference, you can access our live Zoom support room sponsored by Richard West ATAC. The Zoom room link is available on our website on the conference agenda page. And please be patient as there may be many people seeking help at the same time. If you're having technology difficulties now, please first check your sound and try signing out and signing back into the session before visiting the technology support room, as oftentimes this can fix issues. Please note we do have a hard stop at 5 minutes before the top of the next hour in order for us to host the next presentation room. With that being said, I'll hand over our presentation to Michael.
I think LaPrice is going to kick us off, right? Miss Wetherington, it's your show.
Yes, so thank you all for being here. I just wanted to welcome you all and thank you, like I said, for being here. I'm excited to be talking about person-centered planning as it relates to school and students' transition. I think we're going to begin, Michael, with introductions. As the young man said, my name is LaPrice Wetherington. I am the transition coordinator for the Newark Board of Education. I have been working in the capacity of transitioning for our young adults for the last 4 years. However, I've been a special education teacher for the last 15 years and in education for the last 20 years. So again, just want to welcome you all. And then I'm going to pass it on to Principal Summers Phillips to introduce herself.
And then I'll pass it on. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jill Summers Phillips. I am the proud principal of John F. Kennedy School in Newark, New Jersey. It is a special needs school. Right now, we're servicing grades 9 through age 21. We are a school of what we call the Dolphins. We subscribe to the model of there is no limits to what we can do. Yes, and we have the famous. So I'm going to get everybody, we got to get everybody moving and grooving. So we have our famous dolphin wave. So if everybody could just wave, let's just get ourselves all together. That is our dolphin wave, which we use to get ourselves centered and all together. And I want to welcome you all to John F. Kennedy and Boggs Center and our PCAST presentation. I will now turn this over. Who am I going to throw it to?
Get to Ruby.
Let's throw it to Ruby. Ruby, it's you. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ruby. I am a senior of 2021. This year, I will be leaving the John F. Kennedy family.
You never really leave, though, do you?
No.
You may be leaving the school, not the family, Ruby, right? Family's forever.
All right, Ruby. So who are you going to pass it to, Ruby?
I'll pass it to Dion.
DJ?
Hey, DJ?
DJ.
Okay. All right, DJ, you're on.
Afternoon, everyone. My name's Derek, but everyone just calls me DJ, so I would like you to call me that. And it's a nice afternoon. It's good to see you all. And I'm currently a junior at John F. Kennedy School.
Good. DJ, can you turn your camera on for us?
It's disabled.
I just enabled it. Sorry about that. You should be able to share it now, DJ.
There
Okay,
we
yeah.
go.
See how it works now.
Oh, very nice.
Can you tilt it down a smidge, DJ? We're just getting the top, but there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Good.
Deej. All right, Deej, who are you going to pass it to?
Who's here?
Your mom is.
So I pass it to her then.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Raquel Hernandez. I'm DJ Scott's mom. I don't know what to say. So hi guys.
So I guess that leaves me.
Yeah, so we're going to get started with Michael. So then Raquel passed it on to Michael.
All right. So my name's Michael Steinbruck, and I work at the Boggs Center on Developmental Disabilities at Rutgers. And I do 100% of my work is through a project funded by the New Jersey Department of Education Office of Special Education. And that project's called PCAST, which is Person-Centered Approaches in Schools and Transition. And I've been for a few years now working intensively with Newark Public Schools, and in particular JFK School. And we've expanded that work, which I think Ms. Weatherington will be talking about a little bit. But I've been doing work around person-centered practices for a few decades now, and used to work in the field, in the provider field, as a direct support professional, and worked in residential services with adults with disabilities, things like that. And I've been at the Boggs Center for a little over 20 years. And for the past, since about 2013 or 14, we've been working on projects related to PCAST. So I'm very excited to have been invited by JFK School, who had put in for this workshop with the Youth Transition Conference. So I'm excited to kind of come in and help moderate a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for all of your support over the years. From when we had our first meeting in Ms. Morgan Banner's class, and we met for the very first time. I remember coming into the classroom and hearing the music. And so I will always remember that part of the person-centered planning aspect of it is playing the music and setting the mood. And that's pretty memorable. But thank you very much for all of your support over the years.
Yeah, I appreciate your support. I've learned a lot with you all. And Ruby had it right when she talked about the JFK family, because I know that I got connected with you all through one of your teachers who I'd worked with her son in another district up in Bergen County. And that's kind of speaks to how the PCAST project works, which is people sharing, learning with each other, and really having a community of practice. So it's been very rewarding for me.
Okay. All right. So then we'll get started, because I know we all want to hear from our students and how well and their, the plan and how it all came about. All righty. So we're going to start with Ruby, Michael.
Absolutely. And Ruby, getting a little bit of echo all of a sudden. Oh, there it went away. Do you want me to give a brief summary for people about what person-centered planning kind of looks like before, and then Ruby, you can tell us about your experience, and then DJ, you can share yours. Does that work, Ms. Weatherington?
That sounds right. Yes.
So,
that works for me.
Yeah, so we this is such a short, we have about 12 people, 12 attendees on top of our panelists, which is awesome. So welcome everyone. And I'm just going to give you a summary of the work that we're doing, just so you know where, kind of can hear from people who are actually involved at the school level, and where you can kind of learn more, get training, or maybe raise the topic in schools where you or your children are, if you're interested in encouraging them to bring person-centered approaches into the places where you're at. So I want to share a screen real quick, and hopefully this will pop up. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
So one of the things we do in the project is really take a different look on how to plan with each other in collaboration and how to really work as partners. And we do that so that we can have a new tool for planning, but also so that we can learn different ways of facilitating IEPs and different ways of having conversation and different ways of being in relationship with one another, and moving from more of a kind of hierarchical kind of expert model to one which is really very collaborative and open and accessible to everyone in every way imaginable. So part of that means having a person-centered plan, which we're going to show you an actual plan. But the first thing, if we're thinking about planning with someone, is who and why. It's not like an IEP where the system is saying you have to have one for everybody and you have to do it every year. Person-centered planning is something where we really want to kind of think about, who could really, I mean, everyone can benefit from person-centered plan, but we have to prioritize. So we think about the many people and why a plan might be good at this time. And oftentimes, and JFK is a good example of this because they've been so good about really honoring a student's preferences in terms of who participates in their meeting. Students have invited their classmates, and what's happened is then in the hallway, all of a sudden you have a student tugging on somebody's, kind of shirt and saying, I was in so-and-so's person-centered plan, when can I have one? Mm-hmm. And when you have students asking for a planning meeting, I think you're on the right track. So that's something that, definitely I was really good learning in JFK. And so student really needs to understand that process and what it means in order to say, yes, I'm in, right? So that's that second part. And then we need to sit down with the student, and we use something called a relationship map to figure out who they want to invite. So Ruby and DJ both went through that process and invited people to their meeting. We gave out both via paper copies, but also electronically. We can give some brief, kind of questionnaires, some information gathering packets so people can kind of figure out what's being asked and, going to be asked in the meeting. So they're prepared. So they're not walking in and sort of in the dark the way a lot of people feel when they walk into planning meetings. So that also helps the facilitator prepare. And then when we have the planning event, even the way we set up the room is very different, with people seated in a semicircular fashion. And then we have information on flip charts on the wall. And the facilitator, of which, Ms. Wetherington is one, who I worked with and trained, facilitates a process where there's equity and there's a shared display of all the information that's recorded so you see it. And then finally, the facilitator will synthesize and bring all that information down into a template using a computer and create this 2-page plan. And so that's the process we're talking about when we're talking about person-centered planning. But we also have ways of implementing this in the classroom through lessons throughout the year, and also, as I mentioned, bringing it into the IEP process. So those are a couple of key things. So let me just stop sharing and now go right to Ruby, who, Ruby, you remember your person-centered planning process, right? And I think Miss Morgan Banner, one of our teachers, who I also trained as a facilitator, asked you if you're interested, and she facilitated your plan, right?
This is all correct.
I'm on the money. So what I think people who are here with us, whether they're family members or students, I think the first thing would be that what were you thinking when she first brought that idea to you and facilitated your plan? How did you feel about it?
Well, first I didn't know what it was until she told me what it was. She told me it was about planning for my future.
Right. And do you remember the process and the things that happened in the meeting?
Yes. Yes, I do. Everyone that I chose sat around me and told me nice things, and then yeah.
So they shared things about the strengths and gifts and skills that you have to start the meeting?
Yes.
Yep. And who was sitting next to you in that meeting? I remember that meeting well.
So my mom and Farja, one of my friends.
Yep. And I remember y'all were hugging and smiling, and really, it was great to see you all really thinking about your life and your future. So that was a powerful moment, I know, for me to participate in. So I appreciate you having me in the room. So who else did you choose to attend besides your mom and your friend?
My teacher, and that's all.
So these were people who really kind of knew you best, right?
Yes, knew me best.
And it could have been anyone. We've had person-centered plans. Actually, I remember, we've had security guard, or in some buildings, custodians, or people from outside the school, a coach, somebody from a faith community or a club. So definitely is really open, right?
Yes, it was open, but I chose those people because they know me best, and yeah.
All right. And so what do you think the benefits of that meeting were for you as a person sort of looking at adult life coming in the near future, right?
Yes. I think the benefit was me seeing everyone outlook on what they expect me to do and what I want to do, and put it out on paper.
Yep. That's a great way to put it. Awesome. Ms. Weatherington, is there anything else you think we should ask Ruby right now?
No, I think Ruby did phenomenal with expressing herself as it relates to planning for and what the expectation was from her meeting. I think she did a good job, but we can always circle back with questions if something comes up.
Yep, absolutely. So should we talk to Mr. DJ Scott?
Yes, let's hear from DJ.
How are you, DJ?
I'm all right.
All right, happy. Thanks for sharing some of your Saturday to both of you, really all of you. It's a beautiful day out, so if you're here, you must be really interested. So thank you. So can you tell us about, kind of who told you about, the possibility of having a meeting like this and what your thoughts were, DJ?
I believe Miss Tarver told me, or was my mother. Also,
Right.
Either of the two.
Right. And Ms. Tarver was, Sharita Tarver was one of the folks at JFK who I've worked with to facilitate plans, and I was at your meeting.
Yes, I remember you.
Yep, and you guys did a great job, so I appreciate that. And do you remember the process that we went through, sort of how that meeting went and how it was a little different and what you liked about it?
Well, I remember we sat down. We talked about my personality, my personality, my different interests, and what I want to do in the future.
Yep. And I know for a lot of students that they don't really have that opportunity a lot to really kind of sit down with people who know them well and think about who they are as people and how that might connect to a positive future. Was that something that was helpful to you?
Yes, I would say that.
Yep. I don't know, and I don't want to put words in any of your mouths, but I know for a lot of students, just having the idea of being an adult can be very stressful and not knowing what the future holds. So sometimes having meetings and creating plans like this really takes the pressure off, not just the student, but also family members. Did you feel any of that, DJ? Was that helpful to you?
Any pressure about being an adult?
Well,
No.
or whether or not this process kind of helped you feel a little bit more easy about the idea of, kind of the future and making plans.
To be perfectly honest, when it comes to the future, it just comes. I don't worry about the future, to be honest.
All right, right on. Right. How about you, Mom? Raquel, you're that's a gift in itself. I can tell you, I'm not like that. I worry too much and often. Raquel, what did you think as a parent? Kind of go through that process. How did you see the benefits?
Well, I mean, it was a really good conversation, a really good meeting because DJ never really discusses as far as what he really wants to do going forward in the future. So to just be able to map it out and to see where his status is as far as what he wants to do in life, it
Right.
just really kind of just blew my mind. And it was just like, oh, okay, so now we can go ahead and we can do whatever it is that you want to do as far as that goes.
Right.
So it's really helpful. It puts it in perspective as to what your child wants, what your child wants to do, instead of having your child do the necessary things as far as becoming an adult.
Yep. And sometimes that's a good point, because sometimes in systems, the way things work is if you don't kind of have a way of really articulating what you want and the vision you want, systems tend to make decisions for you. And in disability related systems, they tend to send you toward a life more defined by disability rather than a life defined by your gifts and who you are and what's important to you and the vision you have for yourself in your own community. So I think that DJ, you're participating in this meeting, although you don't worry about the future, it really helps other people support where you want to go by really hearing from you. So it's not just about helping the student, it's about helping all of us. We can't, unless we work collaboratively like that. So it sounds like, and that's what I hear, Ms. Hernandez, from a lot of folks is parents, is that it can take, a jumble of things that are in our heads, while we're trying to pay our bills and deal with the cable being out and this and that and the other thing. It's hard to kind of focus on, what do we need to do next to help my son or daughter, kind of move toward a positive future for themselves. So I'm glad that's helpful to you.
Thank you.
So what else do we want to share, Ms. Wetherington, before we go on? Because we have about 20 minutes.
Yeah. So the one thing I did want to add, Michael, and just making a comment, is that I thoroughly enjoyed reading the students' final products on their person-centered planning. One, because in the instance, for example, DJ is a student who doesn't really initiate too much conversation. You feel his presence because that's just who he is.
Sure.
But after reading his person-centered plan, I was like, OMG, like he thoroughly enjoys science. He loves space science and things like that. And so when you know about, the person and what their interests are and things like that, then you can, have a conversation with this person, and then they'll be more open to conversing with you. And then just on the end of the education aspect and knowing which direction to go in when you are teaching and when you are, delivering curriculum and things like that, like, what to hone in on with your students. The same thing for Ruby. It's, although Ruby is graduating this year, moving forward in that transition and beginning to think about employment, next steps, possibly, higher education, so what direction to go in with these students. And I think that's really what it's all about. And I think that's what they want us to know is, I want you to understand what my thoughts are, where I'm going with this, and how you can support me, basically. And so I realized that, and I appreciate that. That one thing about the person-centered planning is because I know how to now support my students and these young adults in their, in their next phase of their life.
Yep. It sounds like what you're describing is one of the things we talk about, a paradigm shift or looking through a different lens, between moving from more of a kind of a system-centered view to a person-centered view, really helping the student be at the center of the process and helping it really drive how we think about supports, how we think about the future. And so thanks for sharing that. I was thinking people who are watching are probably wondering, wow, I'd really like to get a visual and kind of see what this looks like a little bit. And maybe see what a plan looks like. I know I showed them the graphic version just for the process, but do you think we could, can you share a couple of pictures? Do you have that PowerPoint?
So no, I don't have access to it.
No,
okay. I don't have access to that PowerPoint.
Oh, all right. Let me, you want me to kind of tell you what, why don't we do this? I know that we wanted to talk about, while I pull that up, we could talk about with Ms. Summers Phillips and you kind of thinking about what person-centered planning, because you all do this work facilitating for lots of different students, but you also are trying to bring that into, I think, just how we have conversations, whether you're in an IEP meeting or otherwise, and also in the classroom. So it's more of a school-wide approach. And then Ms. Weatherington, you're working on bringing this further out and branching out throughout Newark public schools in the district. So maybe we could start with Ms. Summers Phillips on the school level, and you could talk about this initiative and what your plans are and what it's meant to you. Does that sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so I'm like so excited. Every time I look at the scholars plans, I get excited because I'm like, oh, wow, there's new things I can budget for. There's new things I'm learning about the students. So it allows me to have a different conversation with our students when dealing with them throughout the building. So if I see something not happening right, just say like DJ doesn't like to have a lot of people around him, right? So when he's walking off by himself, it's not necessarily that there's something wrong. That's DJ's space, right? And I know that from his plan. I know that Ruby has a plan that she wants to work in an office and she wants a job. So if I see her lingering around the office talking with the clerk a lot, I know that this is part of Ruby's plan where she's trying to get in the office and find out about different skills. On the higher level, I now know I need to budget money differently. So I need to make sure that I am investing in transition activities that meet the goals that the students are talking about they want to do. DJ wants to do robotics. We don't have a robotics program at this point, but I'm working on getting one because that's something DJ's interested in. And not only him, but there are several students who are interested in robotics, or putting a store together with a cash register for those students who say, you know what, I want to work at Walmart. I want to work at the pizzeria. Like, what does that look like and how can we make that happen on the school level? But it's also about making time for the teachers to invest in the process, making parents comfortable with sharing and knowing that this information is not going to be used against them, but to help them. And just the school being open to that process. And since we've started, I'm able to walk down the hallway and have greater conversations with students. And I have a line. I always say, do you have a PCAST yet? Do you have P? And they're like, I want to sign up. So I have a whole list of students who we need to get, I call it PCAST, and which means that I need to also invest in my staff to get them trained so I can have more facilitators in the process. I can't wait till we can show a plan. Are we going to be able to show DJ or Ruby's plan?
I have it here. So we have permission to do that then from Ruby and.
Yes, DJ Thomas said yes, and Ruby said yes.
So I can. All right.
It's fine.
Yep. And we're not sharing we're going to let people have a glance at it. We're not putting a copy of this to share, but for those of you who are watching, this is a plan that we really bring down to get the really important information, the top tips, and we do it on one piece of paper. So we have a front side and a back side, and I'm going to show you both. And the reason we do that is because over the years, we've learned that unless you can get it really concise and plain language and friendly, people aren't going to read plans. So we want to make sure that it's accurate, really represents the voice of the student, and that people can sit down and read it and do that without taking a whole ton of time. So let me share my screen. And does this look familiar, Ruby? Can everyone see that?
Yes, it does
Yes.
look familiar.
Okay, so this is your person-centered plan. Everybody can still see it? I'm sorry, something just glitched here.
Yes.
So you can see in this first section, it's really a deeper dive into the gifts and skills and wonderful things about Ruby, her leadership, the things that about her being a hard worker and disciplined to really help understand that she's self-motivated and goal-oriented. It really helps people who are supporting Ruby understand sort of the attack or the kind of how to approach best supports for her as an individual, as opposed to thinking that all people get supports the same way, because we're all very different. She's very empathetic and has a concern for others, kind-hearted. So all these things can help us understand later conversations in a better context, like when we're talking about the future and what a person might want to do for employment or other things. And she has a very strong moral compass, very ethical. There are things that this middle section takes some real conversations to get to understand what's most important to a person. Things about her being a valued contributor, to really not just be somebody who's supported, but somebody who wants to participate and share their gifts. Independence and control, social, emotional wellness. There are things these are from Ruby, right? And those things help us understand how we should support her. So this third section is about best supports. So for her, there's things about respecting her decision-making and her control, her agency, her authority over her own life, things about employment and relationships. So these are kind of like the top things that Ruby expressed. And then finally, on the second page, let me see if I can, sorry.
Mm-hmm. And then Mike, yep. And I want to make sure that we show DJs, because one of the important things is that everyone's plan is not alike.
Yeah.
Right. The topics are so different for some of the kids.
So let me swap this out, but I'll just say this is that then we have a section on communication, which is really about self-direction. We have to know what emotions and feelings people are conveying with their words and behavior. So this is to understand people's communication means to understand what they want. And that's part of what self-direction is about. And then we really look at all these different areas of life for the vision for the future and tie them to actions. So we want to know what we're going to do to help get there. So this is very action focused. Now let me see if I can pull up DJ's plan. And
Mike, if you don't mind, as I'm
yes, ma'am.
Thinking about with the plans and in the future, the plans actually help beyond your home. So if something happens and your child has to go to someone else's house or move in with a different relative and you have the plan, you've just stopped a whole learning process of trying to figure out what's going to be best for your child, because you can just look and say, oh, this is what he needs to be successful right now. So this plan, traveling with them, takes out a lot of this hard work about learning about a person.
Yep, absolutely. So we have about 10 minutes, and this is DJ's plan. DJ, you remember this?
Yes, I do. I literally have a copy next to me just in case.
All right.
and make sure you keep it next to you at all times right now.
Yes.
I will.
So, but this is something that changes. It changes as people grow and people change, and some things make sense now, but they won't next year or in 3 years. So it's not something you need to do every year, but it's something you want to be fluid and you want to bring it into IEP meetings, right? And so
it's not set in stone, basically.
Absolutely. So when you look at your plan, DJ, what are the things that are really, kind of stand out for you as being some things you really appreciate or things that are important?
Well, let's see.
I'm throwing some curveballs at you.
It is true that I like to avoid people and crowds.
Yep. So it really helps other people, kind of understand that. And if that's something you feel like you want to change over time, you can help them understand how you would want support doing that. If it's something that you're totally fine with, then people should respect that, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm fine with being by myself, and
Right.
a lot of people do understand and respect that. But
That's great.
I'll see their point of view wanting me to be a bit more social.
So yeah, and sometimes, sometimes we put that on other people, how we think they should be, and sometimes it can be helpful to them. Other times it may just be trying to make people the way we think they should be, as opposed to, supporting them in the way that they're perfectly happy, right?
Yes.
So that's sort of the balance and understanding that we come to in these conversations in person-centered planning. So you can see there's a whole list of wonderful things about you, DJ, things that are deeply important to you. And we try to put them in categories, themes to make them easy to read, things that are very to support you that we know. And then the same way, how you communicate your vision for the future. And finally, some specific actions and goals that we can work on to help you get to the future that you're saying you want. So that gives people at home a real sense of what person-centered plans look like.
Mike, I just want
now my dog's running the house. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to be a point of clarity. We have till 12:55, so we do have about 16 minutes still.
Oh, because we have a Q&A, right?
Yes, any participants that have any questions or anything can use the Q&A feature to submit them. Unfortunately, I did run into that problem where Zoom has frozen for me, so I can just hit space and unmute myself. But you as co-host should be able to see the Q&A button, and if you just hit that, any questions will appear in there that you can answer.
Is there, if we wanted to, could we unmute the whole audience?
I think you can unmute. Yes, if you go to in the participants button on attendees, you could unmute them if they raise their hand or want to say something. I believe that
I cannot, so it must be a host function, but if we need to, we'll do that. So I just want to make sure people can ask questions. I'm excited. I was thinking we were ending, but we got 6 minutes. So how do we want to spend it, Ms. Wetherington?
Guess what? There's a comment from Susan Green.
Yep.
And I'll just read it out and then we can respond. We should be doing this earlier on in a child's educational life. Would be very helpful. For an example, when there is a substitute teacher, right, who would just need a primer on the student to help get through the day. I love that. Yes.
100%. Yep. And I should have mentioned, I could have mentioned that this project is really working from age 3 to 21. So you're absolutely right. Person-centered approaches are applicable not just to all students or even special education. We're talking all people, right? So through the lifespan. So we can all benefit from this kind of thinking and approach to support for one another, or certainly, and at earlier ages, absolutely. And we want to start early. We want to grow over time. And I think that speaks to kind of the school-wide kind of idea and district-wide, where we're, really bringing person-centered thinking into all of us, whether you're a student, a family member, an educator. That's something that we want to grow and capture information over time. So 100%, and having it in a concise way allows people to use it on the fly. So if somebody's out with the sick, or they're quarantined from COVID, other people stepping in, and somebody needs supports right away, this is a great way to do it, which is not the way IEPs tend to work, because they're not accessible that way, and they tend to be quite long, and they don't tend to have the same kind of information. So maybe, I don't know if Ms. Summers Phillips or Ms. Wetherington, you wanted to talk about either kind of school efforts or maybe district-wide efforts while we still have another 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I did want to speak to district-wide efforts. Like I said, I pretty much charge myself with ensuring that this gets into the Office of Special Education and letting them know that this thing is much needed. I'm kind of on the recommendations and the action side of their planning, of their plan. so that when it comes to, for example, I know Ruby, she wants to possibly attend higher education, whether it be a junior college or a vocational school or something like that. I can then take that back to the Office of Special Ed and saying, listen, we need to plan or provide resources for students, or more resources for students who want to go in that direction. So it's good for me to know what their actions and recommendations are. And so the more person-centered plans that we can get out there, the more I can prepare and take that back to the Office of Special Ed. The other thing I wanted to say is that, I don't know, I got a brain fart. I think I lost my train of thought.
I was going to say, one thing that you made me think of is that, when we talk about doing more plans, ultimately, we want IEPs to be person-centered plans, right? We want to have person-centered IEPs, and every one of them should be a person-centered IEP. So that's part of that, is starting with a different model, a different vision, learning it, and then backing into how we can change what we're doing, at scale for all students, which is what the IEP is. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so that was the other point I was trying to make. So to the comment of the young lady saying that, yes, we do need to start that. So that's the other thing that I'm on. I am on because I do have access and I do have ways to get inside of different schools, because at the district level, I can put that information out there and letting them know that it is a real thing, that it is effective, that these are the ways in which you can these are the ways in which it does work for students and families. And like you said, because of the times that we're in, some students are, at home with the babysitter because of whatever, and, different reasons. However, if that plan is in place, then it takes out the thinking of what do I need to do for this particular child, because then you can just refer to it, right? And because there is so many sections on there, it kind of touches pretty much everything. You got the education part with the, with the recommendations and the actions, and you got what's most important to me. What you really need to know about me is, for example, DJ likes to have his own space. That's what you need to know, right? And then you have some things as it relates to your personality. Like, I'm an introvert. I like to, work on my own and then present my finished product to you, like one of those type things. So, all of these things are at your fingertips, basically. And so, the sooner I think people, get on it, then the sooner I think our students are, better off, and just providing ways in which to support that. That's all.
Yep, great.
Ms. Weatherton,
Ms. Summers-Phillips, let me give it to you, but let me also say, we want to get back to Ruby, DJ, and Ms. Hernandez, because we have one final question for them. But go ahead. You said there was a question?
Yes, from Michelle Collins. She wants to know, how can this be done or scheduled for a school who is going on 20, a student that's going on 20, and the school district doesn't yet offer the program?
So that's one of the things I wanted to close with, but I'll tell you all right now, and I think I can provide the link, but if you put in the Boggs Center into Google and PCAST, P-C-A-S-T, you'll find your way to our training link. So there's free training for family members, free training for schools and educators, and that's also on the Department of Education's website too. If you go to NJDOE, PCAST, if you put that, you'll find a page on our project on the DOE website. But absolutely, I think part of that is bringing these approaches to the attention of your school, right? And you can attend training yourself. You can encourage somebody from the school to attend, or you might be able to ask the school if they might have a conversation with me or one of my colleagues about the work, or talk to another school, talk to some of the folks at JFK. So those are all possibilities. But I think one of the things we wanted to end our conversation before we take questions. So please do put questions in the Q&A, but maybe we'll go start with DJ and then go to Ruby and then go to Ms. Hernandez. One of the things is, what is the thing you appreciated most, Ruby? And then also I would ask you, would you recommend this to other students at JFK and all other schools in terms of working on person-centered planning? So I threw two questions at you. So we'll start with the first one. So what did you appreciate most about your experiences with person-centered planning and supports?
Okay, I appreciate it that everyone took a day out of their time to be there for me to say these nice things about me.
Yep. And to be fair, you know, we also are able, because you have that kind of support and that kind of comfortable environment, we also can have pretty difficult conversations, right? About challenges that a student might be having, but doing it in a very positive context, a very positive way, because the student knows we're coming together and really dedicating our time to helping them and appreciating their gifts and strengths, and then having some of those other conversations on what's might be in the way of a good future, right, Ruby?
Yes.
So it's a very comprehensive planning process. DJ, how about you? Would you is there something you appreciated most, and would you recommend this to others?
What I appreciate most was having a good conversation.
Yep. So, and part of that means just being a part of the conversation, which many students, I can tell you, not just in New Jersey, but nationally.
But anywhere
Yeah,
really.
really, yeah, absolutely, are just not part of the conversation, even if they're in the room. So that's part of what we try to teach.
Yes, I understand. That some people some people are just there for just being there.
Yep, 100%. And so would you recommend this to other students?
Yeah, if they would take the advice, then yes.
Yep. How about you, Ruby? Is this something you would recommend to your classmates or people or students in other schools?
Yes, because you get to see what you want to do. Oh, not graduate and then find the find out or figure out what you want to do, because it already set for you.
Yep. Good plan. Plans change, but you got to have one to work from, right? Absolutely. And maybe Ms. Hernandez, is it, you know, as a from a parent's perspective, you know, having experienced that process, is there something you appreciated most, and then would you recommend this to other family members?
I would definitely recommend this to other family members, other parents, to just be involved in it. It's a real big eye opener because the discussion is just open and you get to know a little bit more about your child versus what you think you know about your child. It makes you see that, you know, they are growing up and they do want to do certain things in life, and you know, just because of a disability, it doesn't mean that they can't achieve their goal or their plan that they want to set out to be doing at the end of the day.
Yep, absolutely. And that's a great point. And it really speaks to the idea of in person-centered planning, when we talk about important to as opposed to important for. There, you know, people come in thinking they know everything about a student, but whether you're a parent or an educator, when you have many perspectives, we all get, you know, we all learn, right? And we learn that what we think tends to be what's important for a student, and we have to listen to what they are feeling, what's important to them, which only they can say, so that we can kind of bring those things together and start to, you know, kind of see things more clearly and in context. And it really helps students, I think, engage and care about a planning process much more than some of the things we tend to do in large systems. So we have about 5 minutes. I don't know, Ms. Summers Phillips, I know you got a sharp eye on the Q&A, but if you all have any questions, but while we're waiting on any other questions, one thing I just wanted to show one other graphic, because one lesson is that creating a person-centered plan is not an outcome, meaning that you can create a plan, but if it just goes in a file, that doesn't mean a hell of a lot, right? It can actually be worse than not doing it at all, because, you know, we don't want to create a plan for Ruby or with Ruby and with DJ and then not implement it. You know, you have to follow through. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with you is something I call putting the plan to work. And if I can share my screen, it looks like I just, oop, that's not it. Hold on. Here it is. Can you see that? Somebody give me a yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just making. So once you saw that other graphic of how we develop a plan, but then once you have it, you need to make sure that the student understands that it belongs to them. DJ, that's your plan, not the school's plan. And Ruby, that's your plan, not somebody else's plan. So it's yours to own and use. It's something that you need to keep handy and share with people, right? And it means that you're going to need a circle of supporters to help you implement it. And when we say implement it, it means it's about you living your life in your community. This plan is not about just school, it's about your whole life. So we want you to, it should help make your pathway into your having a full life in your community easier, right? And when you have questions about which way to go, there's that team you have, that circle of supporters, and that plan should help you figure it out. And then you might want to update it and expand it, grow that plan, and really keep it moving. So that's the cycle that we're really looking to see happen, because plans are not just to satisfy systems, right? They're not just about, it's not just about compliance with system requirements. It's about human beings and people, and helping people get good lives in their community. So that starts from the day you're born, and it continues to the day we die. So that's sort of like the overview. Any other questions from our panelists? Ruby or DJ, do you guys have any other, do you have any questions? Or Raquel, if we don't have any from the people watching? Or anything else you want to say? DJ, I see you're up.
No, I was gonna say, no, I don't have any more questions.
We can think of some though, right?
They want to thank DJ. So Miss Susan Green said thank you to DJ and Ruby for sharing your perspective.
No problem.
And I echo that. Thank you, both of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
We have a minute left, actually.
Yeah, how can we spend it? Maybe an appreciation round.
How old are you, Michael?
This is one of the things that we do at the end of every person-centered planning meeting, which is just to say briefly what we appreciated most. So what do we appreciate most about this webinar? I will say, as always, I appreciate the students and family members really giving us this perspective that we need, because if this were a webinar filled with people, just educators, then it's really nowhere near as helpful to folks listening. You really need to hear from the people who are experiencing person-centered planning. So thank you all for giving up some of your Saturday. Ruby, what'd you appreciate most about today? We got to be a lightning round. There's one thing.
I appreciate you guys all coming together and helping me. Yeah.
100%. All right, DJ.
And a nice conversation.
Nice conversation. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And Raquel.
Just being able to just get the word out to, let people know that this is effective and it works. Awesome. And Ms. Summers Phillips?
I appreciate the family and how it's grown.
Yep, and we should probably say thank you to the New Jersey Youth Transition Conference for having us. We appreciate you all. And Ms. Wetherington, why don't you close us out?
Thank you all. I appreciate you all, like Michael said, giving a little bit of your Saturday to this. I appreciate you for just jumping on and saying yes. I also appreciate me a little, every time we get together like this, I always learn just a little bit more about each of you. So I definitely just appreciate just gaining more knowledge, and with that, I know how to support you guys moving forward. So I appreciate all of that.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody who attended.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Susan. Thank you guys for
Thank
coming.
you. Oh,
Go
right.
wave out.
See
All
ya.
right. Ms. Summers Phillips, let's talk soon. Keep this thing moving. Keep this
Yes,
track.
yes. I'm ready. We're going.
All right.
Okay,
Take care,
goodbye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
bye bye.